It's time for the Teed Off Podcast.
Okay, it is episode 15 of the Teed Off Podcast. I'm Ben Clyburn, and I'm here with my co-host, Aaron Thomas. Aaron, how's it going today, man?
Great, Ben. How you doing?
Quick plug early, March is a good time to do some spring packages. I know that April and May are the peak times, but sneak out a package in March when you go to mbgolf.com. There's still some tee times and availability. So think about that. Let's go over the agenda of the show today. Our front nine is going to be full of the world of golf and our guests. We've got Pete Kinney, President of Volvik USA. He's going to join us via Zoom, and I just cannot wait to talk to him about his story in the game of golf, which has a lot of roots in Myrtle Beach, and all the cool things going on at Volvik. That's going to be really fun. Then we will hit the back nine and do a rounds update in Myrtle Beach Golf, talk about the package of the episode, the accommodation of the episode, and last but not least, what tees us off. And hopefully I can get Pete to say something about what tees him off too.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah. Ready to jump in?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it.
The front nine.
And with us, we have a special guest via Zoom today. We've got Pete Kinney. He's a PGA member and president of Volvik USA. Pete, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thanks, Ben and Aaron. It's a pleasure to be on the show and talk a little bit about Myrtle Beach and, of course, what we're doing at Volvik Golf. And 50 days away from the Masters right now, so we're getting there. Spring's on the way.
It is. It's a beautiful day in Myrtle Beach today. It's still a little cold in the mornings, but definitely wish I was on the golf course today. We ask all of our guests, Pete, how did you get into the sport of golf and then eventually decide for it to be a profession?
Well, like most of us, it came down through my father and his brothers. They played golf, and of course, at a young age, he took me to the golf course. And it's the typical story of you're just exposed to it, but you never really, grasp it till you're a teenager or a little bit later and take it seriously. But he worked at IBM for his whole career, and we're from upstate New York, the Binghamton area, which is famously known as the home of Dick's Sporting Goods. So he worked at IBM, and they had a country club back then. And he would take me on Saturdays while he played, and I may have been 6 or 7, and he'd leave me on the putting green with money to buy soft drinks or hot dogs or whatever. And while he went and played 18 and then come back and we'd go home. So I didn't get to play golf till maybe 10 or 11 or 12. And it was extremely hard to play, as everyone knows. It's tough, especially when you're young, especially back in those days with that equipment. The balls weren't good. Everything was basically a blade. So it was my father, and it kind of morphed. Long story short, to this day, I can't hit the ball very far with a driver. And we'll get to that with the rollback conversation a little later. But I became a very good putter and chipper because of that time I spent on the putting green. And I always carried that through, even into my teens and college, where I loved to practice putting. So I went to junior college for 2 years. And my only goal from being a little one was to be on the radio, right? To be a disc jockey. So I went to school for 2 years and then went right into radio broadcasting in my hometown, which was kind of fun. A great way to spend your later youth. And then did that for 10 years. And about halfway through my radio career, I started giving lessons. My game had gotten really good, and I wanted to see if I really would be interested in teaching. So I found a local golf course, and the owner agreed to let me teach. I don't know why, because I didn't have any background in it, but God bless her. She did, and liked it. So, the radio hours, I think at the time I got serious about it. I worked 3 to 7 in the afternoon drive. So it's 4 hours a day. So in the summer, you have all that time in the morning and some couple hours afterwards to golf or do what you want. And I got married in '87, and my wife's another reason why I'm in this business. I couldn't have done it without her, but it was one of those things where you do something for that you wanted to do all your life, and you say kind of, well, I've done that. Is this all there is to it? And I didn't want to move all the way around the country, so I thought the only other passion I had was golf. So I said, let's look into that and try to become a PGA professional. So in 1989, the winter, it was right after Hurricane Hugo hit down there. I had gotten an interview with a PGA pro named Jim Fellner, who's a great guy, and he was at Waterway Hills with the tram, right?
I know Jim. Yes, sir.
You know Jim, right?
Yeah.
So I flew down, it was freezing, rode the tram over, the course was closed, and got the job and came back home and said it was 1990. Then told my wife, we're moving to Myrtle Beach, and became the assistant pro. And in those days, the Waterway Hill stories are classic because of the tram. But in those days, golf was really, Hugo set it back a lot. Like Paulie's, that area got hit really hard. Set the industry back there. But then after that, the boom came, not like COVID, but we had upwards of 120 courses back then in the 90s. Places like Marsh Harbor, Ocean Harbor, which might be the toughest golf course ever, right?
Yes.
It's a shame that never lived on, but it was a totally different world back then. And the minute I heard Condo World, I thought about all the times I called you guys to see if carts were included in a package. So it brings back a lot of memories, but it all started at Waterway, and Jim treated his assistants very good. And that tram was interesting because it held 4 bags and 4 golfers, and people felt a propensity to have to tip on that, like they were going on some kind of ride. So the guy on the 17 side would get a tip, loading the bags and then the guy on the clubhouse side would get another tip, put them on the carts or when they left. So Jim was nice enough, because he knew we weren't making a lot of money, to give us 1 day a week, the assistants on the tram. And, that was 27 holes. So we played upwards of 300 rounds sometimes. And for young professionals to split cash, I think the statute of limitations has run out with the IRS. So I can say that now. But we took home a lot of money just from the 1 day. And that was kind of the kindness. And back then we were part of the Myrtle Beach National Group, which I think was only 8 courses. Long Bay was the last course they added. And of course, then it was sold, Founders and all that. So it was a great time to be in the business. And I moved to Myrtle to do it simply because if I stayed in upstate New York, it would take me twice as long to be a PGA member because of the winter time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we went down, and my wife and I, we each worked, 3 jobs. I'd leave Waterway and go across the street to Rainbow Falls Mini Golf and work there at night. But it was just a great time. And my whole apprenticeship was spent mostly at Waterway Hills. And then I left there and went to Sea Trail up in Sunset Beach, which of course is having that big renovation right now with the convention center and all that I read. But went to Sea Trail, and then was fortunate enough to finish my apprenticeship at Tidewater right after it won Golf Course of the Year. So it was fairly new. We were still in a little trailer and operated there until the clubhouse was built. And then good fortune happened to me. One of the board members for Myrtle Beach National, Dr. Russell Burgess, was original founder of Myrtle Beach National with Clay Britton and those guys. And he founded Beachwood in 1968. And again, I'll tell stories out of school. I might get in trouble, but I might not. But there was 9 people that invested in Beachwood, and that's prime property right now, along with Azalea Sands right there. but they invested $25,000 each in 1968. Wow. And that's it. And you know how long the course has been there. So Doc Burgess used to come into Waterway just to say hi to Jim and visit, and we became friends. So one day he came into Tidewater and he said, "Hey, you got your Class A?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "We're looking for someone to run Beachwood. Would you be interested?" And I said, "Of course." And that was wild because at one time they played. This is crazy for an 18-hole course. They played 65,000 rounds one year. And so if you did 50, which is huge, at any course for 18 holes, it was a failure at Beachwood. So there was a little pressure there to do some big numbers, but the location always helped us, and it was quite a great place because it had a snowbird membership that came back every year, so you got to know everyone. So it was a great start, and of course by then I had spent my whole career in Myrtle Beach Golf, so I knew, all of you guys and all the properties and the fellow courses. And I think back then it was just after Tea Time Network was put into use, so we were like the pioneers of technology back then because it wasn't like it is now, right?
Was that the black screen background? Yeah, I remember that.
It was, and it would go down quite a bit. So, but it was a great place to go. We had Hubby Bellamy was the superintendent. He was the only superintendent they ever had at the time for years. And working for 9 owners was rough because the board meetings and such, it's different when you're not talking to 2 or 3 people, all very great people. So it provided me the opportunity I needed. And then my career took a wild turn. Again, all I ever wanted to do, possibly to this day, was run a golf course or a golf club. And I got off to the sales side. And what happened was one of our great reps who's passed, his name was Pete Vanderwalker. He was our MaxFly rep when MaxFly was a brand before Dick's has it now. But Pete was jumping over to Spalding, which again isn't around now, but Top Flight was huge. And so he was making the jump, and I was a MaxFly staff member, and I got to know his regional, and they were out of Greenville, South Carolina. So it wasn't far away. So when he went to make the jump, he said, "Are you interested in, becoming a sales rep?" And at the time, there was a big difference in the pay. The compensation for reps was a lot better. So I did it. And that was, I believe, 1998. And I remember my first sales call, which will again date me, was on Baytree. Remember Baytree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Before it was not a golf course anymore. So started with MaxFly, lived in North Myrtle still, and then TaylorMade bought MaxFly. And it was like a big lottery. You didn't know if you were going to, half the guys were going to go with TaylorMade, half the guys were going to go to stay with MaxFly or the Slazenger part, because TaylorMade bought MaxFly, but they didn't buy Slazengers. So we waited for that call, and fortunately it came, and I became the coastal TaylorMade rep and I covered Wilmington down to Kiowa and then west to Columbia. So it was a pretty prime.
Yeah, that's a lot of coverage there.
Yeah, but I laugh because you'd go down the strip and make a right turn, go to a left turn, right, because all the courses were right there, right? And back then it was only Martin's and Golf Dimensions. And then there was an Edwin Watts in Charleston. But there wasn't a lot of off course, so you spent a lot of times in the golf courses. So that was a great run with TaylorMade for 5 years, and then Slazenger, the old Slazenger company, was also in Greenville, and a buddy of mine became president, and this was in 2003 maybe, and he said, "Would you like to be my director of sales and move to Greenville?" And of course, I said I would. And then about 18 months in, the licensee that had the brand, the group that had the brand, decided they weren't going to renew it with the folks in the UK. So we had to shut down. And at the time it was like the Peter Millar of today. The shirts were high end, very expensive, and for a while we were on course green grass only. Only at the end did we go off course. So that was another bump in the road, and thank God for networking. And you guys know how important that is. But I was picked up by Strixon in the Atlanta area to be the director of customer service and credit. Again, something I've never done, but they had a little issue down there with the customer service department. So my wife and I, we moved to Metro Atlanta, and then was there for a couple of years and got offered a job as sales development manager at Bridgestone right across town in Covington, and went over there and was fortunate enough to be part of that ride where we went to number 2 behind Titleist, mainly because of the RX golf ball. We had the first urethane golf ball made for slower swing speeds, which was a whole new product category. Now that category's crowded, right? Back then it wasn't. So the market share was number 2, and I got to spend 8 years there, and it was great because you're right at the factory. I learned a lot about golf balls, and then just kind of went off to worked for a company called VGM, which is was a buying group basically for golf courses, everything from food and beverage to pro shop to agronomy, fertilizer, and did that. Worked for some friends there, which was fantastic. And my wife got transferred here to the Raleigh area, and we made the move. And VGM was sold to a company called Club Procure, and my position was eliminated. So it was like, what are we going to do? And a friend and a good friend from Bridgestone was president of Kent Wool, the sock company out of Greenville, who has they have a lot of tour players that wear their socks, and made me director of sales there. And then ironically from there, it just I did a couple things. Living in Raleigh was hard because trying to find a golf job that fit your background, it was really hard. And it was I was at Kent Wool during COVID, which was, the company was great, the owner was great, so we survived COVID and we did really well. And then I was recruited by Golf Galaxy Dix to be general manager at a store, and I had no retail background. My retail background was I worked part-time at Golf Dimensions back in the day, changing grips.
Okay.
If you guys have had plenty of pancakes, I don't know if they still do it, but the placemats used to have coupons on them.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Dino's.
yeah.
Yeah. When you go to the pancake houses.
Yep.
So I was the guy that had to do the 49-cent grip change when they brought their coupon on their set of clubs. And at 49 cents, it went to 99 later. People had their grips on. People never had their grips changed. These clubs were 30 years old, and it was a lot of labor getting like even leather wraps off. So, but Golf Dimensions was my only retail experience. So I'm like, why are you calling me for a Golf Galaxy? It's a huge store, 35,000 square feet. And it was because of my Binghamton connection, where growing up with the Stack family and Dick's, that was an advantage. But I'm not a retail guy. So it wasn't going to last very long. And again, having connections, I was recruited to be develop a new line for Ralph Lauren from one of their licensees of headwear and golf gloves for places like Macy's and Bloomingdale's and those people. And the fella that I know I'm moving fast through this because it was many years, but
You're doing great.
Yeah.
The fellow that recruited me for Volvik, looking for a VP of sales. And do you know anyone? Right? He said, and I'm like, I'll think about who I know. And then it developed into the fact that my golf ball experience, I mean, I'm really interested in what they're doing. And he's like, well, why don't you interview? And so I had an interview with the folks in Orlando, where that was our home office. It is where our home office is. And then they sent me over to interview on Zoom with the Korean board in Seoul at Volvik, Korea. And I remember it just like it is now, talking to you guys. I'm in here doing my spiel about what I know about golf balls. And at the end of the call, the president or the head of Volvik takes his papers and goes like this, and he's looking down. So I know it's over, right? And just body language. And the translator says, we're very impressed with your credentials and your knowledge of the golf ball industry, and we'd like you to be our president.
Wow.
So, and just yesterday at the PGA show, someone said to me, how did you get to be the president of Volvik? And I had to tell the story, but it wasn't something I was interviewing for. It was just a fit. They had a situation where they needed management bad. They thought it was time for the first American leader of Volvik here, which I'm honored. Just great people over there. And the opportunity just kind of just happened. And then I was able to pull in some friends. As one of my friends, John Holst, longtime industry veteran, as vice president of sales, and then Brandon Sowell, who was the director of marketing for Bridgestone, and then went to do the same thing at Golf Pride for 10 years. I was lucky these guys were available, and this was end of August this past year. So we're coming up on 6 months, and we were able to put it together. And we'll talk about that when we talk about the brand a little, but we were able to really turn things back around really quickly. And it's been, this is my last job. And unless that tram opens back up, I might go back there and work. But, this is the last one before retirement. And we're involved in to be honest, a turnaround project here with the brand. And it's been nothing but exciting and nothing but great things.
Pete, that was what a great timeline of events of your career. I was going to say, from being excited about working the tram one day a week at Waterway Hills and the 49-cent grip change to now the president of Volvik and everything that happened in between there. Something that I was naive about, you had a lot of different positions there. And I should be thinking about this from a weather and geography standpoint, but I was surprised to hear how many brands are in the Southeast and headquartered in the Southeast. But I guess that's because you can play golf most of the time, most of the year in the Southeast. So that makes sense to be near where the business is. Is that on the right track there, Pete?
Yeah, traditionally there's 3 sectors now. It's New England, because Titleist was founded there. Spalding was there. Callaway's there with their ball plant. The Southeast, South Carolina, because Max Fly was there. TaylorMade's ball plant's there now. And then Atlanta, the Atlanta area, Mizuno, Bridgestone, and then some Florida. But yeah, you're right. It's because of the weather and even testing, like at Bridgestone, our outdoor test center. Tiger Woods sneaks in and out of there. Still to this day with his private jet at Covington Airport and goes right to it's private, no one can see it. It's like kind of the perfect situation for someone not looking for, imagine if Taylor Swift flew in there, everyone would know, but
Yeah.
Tiger gets in and out of there. But yeah, it's, the Southeast is a hotbed for that. And it's been really good to a lot of companies. Used to be the tax breaks brought us here, but now those are all gone. So we're here.
Well, a great story of how you became the president of Volvik. You mentioned that Volvik's going through a bit of a resurgence project. Can you give us some information on what that's about and the initiatives that you're heading up? I mean, you've been president since August of last year.
So it's a great question, Ben. It's so just a history on Volvik. Founded in 1980 in Korea. It's the only golf company that was founded outside of the USA and Japan. And the name Volvik, it's interesting. People wonder what it is. Well, it's pretty simple. The first part, the VOL, stands for volare, which is Italian for a Korean company. It's Italian for drive. Fly. I was thinking of the car. There used to be an old car called that. But it stands for drive in Italian. And then you got the VI, and the K. So it's Drive to Victory Korea is what Volvik stands for.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Interesting, yeah.
There's an Italian piece in there. So they were founded in 1980, and then in the U.S. in 2012. So we're not that old here in the U.S. So it was 2012. They entered into a joint partnership with a man named Don Shin, who was a fantastic guy. So Don was sort of the distributor. He had part of the U.S. partnership, and Volvik Korea owned the other part. It was a joint partnership. Well, they went along and they did some great things. They developed the first matte golf ball, which was the Vivid, which everyone has a matte golf ball now, all the companies. But Volvik was the innovator of matte technology, color. And the interesting thing about Volvik, guys, and the competitors is all of our products, no matter what they are three-piece technology, multi-layered technology. We only have two balls that are two-piece balls, and those are our lower end, a couple dozen balls with a couple models we have. But everything that our competitors do, for the most part, in matte is two-piece. And there's a big performance difference with three-piece and two-piece. Two-piece matte balls don't tend to spin, which isn't bad for some folks, but around the greens, it's a little rough. Three-piece, you get all that performance. So they debuted with that and had a successful run through that 2012, 2018. And then, of course, the pandemic came. And in 2022, sadly, Don became terminally ill and passed away. And he was the face of the brand in the U.S. And like I said, a great guy. They did LPGA sponsorships. Just he spread a lot of goodwill for the brand. And he had passed, and then Volvik Korea had to come to a decision what to do because Don's family was still, part of the partnership. And eventually the decision was made to buy them out. And we are now, for the first time, 100% Volvik Korea owned in the United States, which created a lot of exciting opportunities for us, because anytime you're in a distributorship or there's another level involved of profit, that's built into the price. So when I came in and my team came in August, first thing that we were able to do was to eliminate that middle layer of profit and lower our prices. So our Vivid, which is our flagship ball, went from $34.99 to $29.99. So that's the first thing to get everyone's attention again across the board. We're able to have better pricing.
I mean, Pete,
Secondly,
that's got to be, not to interrupt you, Pete, but that's got to be the only thing in the golf industry where the price has gone down.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's a big deal.
It really is. And I appreciate you noting that, because it opened doors for us. So when Don passed to when we came aboard, the brand was virtually silent. We were in, Superstore and Dick's and Worldwide Golf, Edwin Watts. We were in all the key retailers still, but there was no communication, no contact. Our sales reps were out there still doing a great job, but there was no company support because we didn't have the leadership. And it's not to fault anyone, but because of Don and the way he treated everyone, when we went back into the key accounts, the PGA Superstores, the brand, they still looked at the brand, they still loved the brand. There was no negativity. It's just like, we love you, but where have you been, right? So when we took over, the first thing we saw, guys, was, okay, I spent my whole career, it's why I have gray hair or little hair, chasing Titleist, right? And the Pro V. And now you got Chrome Soft, you got TP5 and then Srixon's balls. So everyone's chasing that, tour player, the tour market, the better golfer. And we came to the conclusion that if we try to do that, although we have some great urethane high performance tour balls, but if we concentrate on that, we're probably not going to win or not do well. So what did we have? We had colors. We had three-piece performance balls with different technology at a great price point. So we said we're going to concentrate on performance and, more importantly, fun, right? Fun. There's not many people that are, thinking like, you picture 4 guys on carts with wingmen, speakers going, cigars, and 4 different colored golf balls. That's what we're visualizing with the brand. So
that looks like my typical weekend, Pete. Yeah. It really does.
I didn't mention the alcohol just because I didn't want to put you on the hook for that, but that's another story. The shaker is in the back of the cart. So we just thought there was a big opportunity. There's 15 million for the first time. There's more off-course golfers than there are on-course, meaning people that go to Topgolf, people that do simulator golf. And funny story, just last night, our local news anchor here was talking about a new simulator company coming to Raleigh to open up indoor pickleball and golf simulators. And she said exactly what I never thought. She said, I love the golf simulators because no one's watching me. Like on the golf course, I don't have to tee off in front of anyone. And I thought, wow, that explains it. But so there's 15 million of these golfers who eventually are going to go to the par 3, the driving range, and hopefully make it onto the course, right? So we want to be that brand of fun and performance. And the best thing about these people that do this is they don't have any brand allegiance. They're not Titleist. They don't have, like, golfers have preconceived, brands. It's like going into a bar and ordering a beer. You have a favorite beer, and it's the same thing with golf balls. So you have a whole group of people with no bias or no loyalty, and it's a great chance for us to rebrand ourselves and be part of that mix. And we've had a couple-year partnership with Marvel, which has been fantastic. In fact, here's the Deadpool box.
Oh, cool.
There's going to be a Deadpool movie coming out. So this is kind of in relationship to that. But these gift sets, they've been like huge for us. So we've been doing this a couple years now with them. It's very successful. And just right before the PGA show, we added the Disney license, which is huge because Mickey Mouse, Goofy, all those, different gift sets we can do. And then just to have that relationship with them is a huge thing. Besides our performance urethane and our performance distance 3-piece balls, now we have the Marvel and Disney license. And, that may lead into someday Star Wars, line extensions of that. So just kind of neat things. But it's always been, about the color for us. And this is our Vivid Combi ball that's just out. And one thing interesting about our manufacturing process, not to drag you down with all the technical things, guys, but we're one of the few companies who doesn't paint our golf balls. So our cover, the color is in the cover, the resins of the cover. So if you can see this on the screen, I'll try to show you. You can see that orange all the way through?
Yes.
To the core, or to the mantle there. And it's the same with the crystal ball. You can see the cover is the color. So that means for golfers like us, when we hit the cart path like 4 times, you're not going to see white under the ball. It's going to be the same color. Or even in the sand, how it scuffs when you hit a bunker shot? We're not going to see that. So innovation has been the number one thing. This is the Crystal Combi, which has, you see the iridescent shiny color compared to the matte finish on the Vivid Combi I showed you. And then we introduced a 3-piece performance ball called the Vista 360. And it has the wrap, like you might know a competitor that does that. Mm-hmm. But this ball retails at $29.99. So, I'm sorry, $32.99. No, $29.99. I'm sorry, but it has a unique wrap on it, and the technology, the technological things we can do in the manufacturing. We have over 55 patents, and I know we're going to talk about the USGA thing, which will tie into that. But by the Vista line, we also, along with Disney and Marvel, one of our true initiatives was we saw a need for a company to really concentrate on women and ladies balls, especially with they're the largest growing segment since COVID in the game. So we wanted to really concentrate on them, but we wanted to do something and give something back. So John, my VP of sales, had worked for Wilson for years, and they did Hope, a line of women's products with a pink ribbon on it, and at the time donated to a breast cancer foundation and did very well. So I lost my sister when she was 42. She was the oldest of our family, oldest sibling, but lost her at 42. And so there was a chance to kind of replicate that with Volvik. So we went to the Breast Cancer Research Foundation and created a partnership, and proud to say we're going to have 3 balls specifically designed for women. And the first one is the Vista 360. And we've donated a minimum of $20,000, but every dozen we sell, $1 goes directly to them. And you can see it has the same wrap as that Vista 360 I showed you. So
that's awesome.
There's gonna be this one, Vivid, a model all pink, and then there's gonna be a pink and white combi similar to this. So there's gonna be 3 models, and it's there's one model for every. If someone doesn't like all pink, they can go the half, the combi. If someone doesn't like that, they can go the 360. So we just wanted to have a choice for women, but we think it's going to be really accepted, and it already has. It's been out a month. That ball accepted for the fundraising aspect. People want to support that because everyone's been touched by cancer in their families. It doesn't necessarily have to be breast cancer, but cancer. And the problem we're trying to battle now is not the breast cancer cure rate has gone way up, right? Due to technology. What hasn't gone way up is it coming back, metastasized cancer, right? So women have breast cancer, they're cleared, everything's great. And then 4 years later, you have cancer somewhere else in your body. So that's what this Breast Cancer Research Foundation is really concentrating on with all their partners. And so it's a great cause. And, we just want to make a statement with it, but it's important to do some really good things in the women's market. And we think we kind of hit a hot spot and a home run with helping the folks at BCRF out with this.
Well, Pete, that's such a great cause, and the initiative is just, it hits home, and it's just great to hear Volvik doing something like that and giving back. And thank you for giving us a run through on all the products and the balls. I see the Marvel box in the background there, and you showed us the Deadpool 3 box. When I go to the PGA Superstore, those are the balls that stick out to me, the ones with the Avengers on it and stuff like that, because no one else is doing that. And to pull Disney into your boat, the moment you said that, I just thought about Star Wars. I did too. I don't know if anyone's done the market research, but a lot of golfers like Star Wars.
I would like the first Darth Vader ball, please.
Yeah. Well, we do a black Vivid, which is really cool. We don't sell it. It's a limited edition. We had a tequila company do 5,000 dozen of those with their logo on it. Black, and it's really cool. But so I could see a Darth ball being a black ball, with his image on it. But Lucasfilms, that's another license we'd have to work on, and we've already discussed it. And then you've got, like, when you talk Disney, you've got Cars.
Yeah.
You got Monsters Inc. The one eye Mike Wisnowski ball, right? Green with the one eye on it. That would be huge. It's a great partnership. And my goal is also, as the president, is I want people to get off Guardians of the Galaxy and dump right into the gift shop and see the balls there from Volvik.
Well, the Disney parks have been genius in doing that. When I went to a vacation rental conference in October, and we snuck out and went to Disney. And you can't leave a ride without going through that. And the balls, they come in a convenient pack, so it's not like you have to carry home a lightsaber. Mm-hmm. You can get a 3-pack of balls or a 4-pack of balls with a gift pendant in it or something. So I just think the opportunities are endless there, Pete.
I appreciate that. And by the way, I almost bought that lightsaber, the real one you can buy.
Yeah.
The custom one.
Me too.
It was like, I almost had to have that, but I didn't, but I appreciate that. We think it's going to be really good, and already we debuted at the show, and the orders are flying in, and I can tell you, Superstore, Dick's Golf Galaxy, and Worldwide, which is Edwin Watts and Roger, they're all in on Disney and Marvel. So you're going to see a lot more at your local PGA Superstore. You're going to see a lot more Marvel too. All the new ones will be there. So it's a really neat thing. And like I said, we have, again, all those products and licenses go back to fun, right? Everything ties into let's have fun. This is golf. It's hard. It's a hard game to learn. So let's just make it as colorful and fun as we can. And again, like I said, a lot of people make colors. There's golf ball companies have come out of the woodwork. There's all these direct to consumer companies. One thing people don't realize is there's only 6 of us who manufacture our own golf balls. Every other golf ball you see out there, and I'm not going to name names, but it's an internet ball or whatever. Those are made by, they have to contract with a factory to make those balls. And it's the technology, they don't own it. The factory does. So they're limited to, and I had this problem at Slazenger because we were under the same thing. So when I went to our ball factory in China, there was only 4 or 5 patents or whatever we could make the ball out of, and it limited your technology. So, Titleist, Callaway, TaylorMade, Bridgestone, Srixon, and us. That's it. Those are the only ball manufacturers. Everyone else is farming it out. They're saying, well, my choice is 330 dimples or 420. I'll take the 420. That's how they're developed. And as we get into the USGA thing, that's going to be even more important than ever to have technology to push the boundaries of those new ball rollbacks.
Mm-hmm. Let's transition into that. I think that's a good segue because you have vast experience, in the equipment, apparel, and golf ball industry, and now you're the president of a company that main focus is the golf ball. I know you guys are about fun, and you're going to expand on the fun, which is great. But you've shown a lot of big strides in performance too of the golf ball. So with that being said, what are your thoughts on the USGA and RNA's announcement that the equipment and ball rollback is imminent?
Yeah, I'm gonna divide this in half. So you're gonna talk to someone here that's a PGA member, and then the president of a company. So I'm gonna give you 2 different answers.
Okay,
but they're very similar. First, the PGA side, the PGA member. We're totally against this. I mean, totally. The recreational golf. I mean, we're really concerned about what it's going to do to not that less than 1% of the elite players in the world, but all the golfers. We do not want to make the game tougher, more appealing. Right now, it's never been more popular. And from the PGA standpoint, the PGA member standpoint, I just feel like the USGA did this nice grace period, comment period, but I think it was predetermined. That's just my opinion, what the result was going to be, because the PGA of America, the PGA Tour, everyone was against it, right? For all of golf. There was some people that were fine with the elite players, having it rolled back, even just for the majors or whatever. But when it came down that it was everybody, my first thought was the people at the USGA have never been in a TrackMan bay giving lessons all day to amateurs or outside to realize this game is still very difficult. When you're taking it up, and even when you think you got it all together, the ball goes 50 yards right on you. So it's a difficult game. So that's the problem. We're penalizing, the majority of the people. And it's just my humble opinion that this decision was based on preserving a handful of golf courses in the championship rotation. Like, it's just, there's courses that have maxed out because the players hit it so far. But I got news for you guys. In 2028, by 2030, there's going to be guys that are fantastic athletes that are going to hit it just as far. And they even mentioned that the USGA did, like, they may have to look at it down the road. Well, you can't keep rolling it back. And the beauty of golf is we all play the same equipment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you make a birdie, let's say you go to, Aaron, let's say you go to Long Bay and you play a par 5 from the back tees and you make an eagle, right?
Mm-hmm.
You made that eagle from the same spot a professional would with the same equipment. There's nothing better, right, than that. We don't get to hit home runs at whatever I say, Turner Field. I'm showing my age.
I still call it Turner Field.
I do too.
Some names, they just stay the same.
Yeah.
Truist Park. We don't get to hit home runs there because we're not allowed to do that. So it's just we get to do things that the pros do. So let's transition to the Volvik side, right? So as a company, we are against the rollback. However, we know it's going to happen, and we know we've got till 2028 for the everyday player. So we've just adopted the fact that it is what it is, and we're going to make the best performing golf ball under those limits that we can, and we'll always push the limits, but we have the technological ability to still do some great things with the golf ball. Should they have kind of rolled back clubs too? Probably. It's not just a golf ball issue, but I'm one that believes that all this could have been taken care of by course setup. Growing the rough, narrowing the fairway, speeding the greens. Especially for a few golf courses, a Marion Golf Club outside of Philly or whatever that are no longer relevant. But just the fact to think that all the golf courses that elite golf has played are going to be obsolete is not really that's not true or healthy thinking. But I just think at Volvik, we think that no one's going to change their mind. On the PGA side, we still think there's time for someone to kind of come to their senses, but it's not going to happen. So we're prepared to meet those needs. And there may be a branch that comes out with non-conforming equipment. We have a ball in our line called the Magma. It's been there for a couple of years, but it's an illegal golf ball. You get about 20 more yards with it. And illegal it's not conforming to the USGA or RNA. And it's big in Korea. Not so big here because people want to play, legal equipment. So there might
I'll place an order for those, though.
I was about to say the Magma. Writing that down.
I'll send you some after the call. But it's just that might be a whole nother wing. But one thing I can tell you, I came up with a solution to the problem, and it's kind of technical, but this comes from being in fittings, a year at Golf Galaxy, watching people just improve from a simple club fitting. And don't do this till 2028 because it won't help you. But about 90% of the golfing public with their drivers are not playing with enough loft. So let's say it's 2028 and the new ball rollback has happened. If you go get your driver fit, if you go get for a driver, chances are they're going to get you to a 14.5 effective launch, which is awesome. You're going to pick up like 20 yards. So that would negate if you can stay in your current equipment now until the golf rolls back and then go for a fitting, you'll get it all back and then some, because we sit through all these fittings. And I talked to some Superstore guys too at the PGA meeting this week. And, the average fitting for a driver, legitimately 12-yard gain would be kind of a poor performance if a guy is misfit. So what happens is people come in with their driver and their effective launch rate is like under 12 or it's 11 or 10. And the minute you get them to a 14, 15, that's like 25 yards. So to my fitting friends, I've been telling them, guys, you're set to make a lot of money because people need to get this tune up and they'll get the yards back and more. But that's only the driver. So, you're still going to be 5 yards shorter with your iron or whatever. But it's just such a complex, when I looked at, Ben, I looked at your notes that we're going to talk about that. And I'm like, oh, geez.
Yeah.
It's something, I just feel from both sides of the fence that it was something that was forced on us.
I just don't see much good with it, Pete. I mean, I really don't. I mean, I'm hopeful too, and also realizing that's probably not going to change, but with this long runway, maybe somebody will talk some sense into the USGA. But to me, even if it's a couple yards for most golfers, why make the game harder? That's what you said. I agree. I feel like that's such a negative thing to do. And then have a larger impact on the elite golfers. I think you said, well, a lot of that can be changed in course setup. Well, that's already happened. I mean, take Bryson DeChambeau. I've said this on a previous episode. He was a bomber, and he was hitting it really straight that year when he was going into Augusta. I think that was 3 years ago. He said, well, it's really a par 68. And he had all these different lines he was going to take, and he was just going to eat the course up. He didn't even make the cut. So, I mean, it's just the defense is already there. You making the greens faster and stuff like that would affect pace of play for the amateur golfer. But for the pros, you just set it up for the pros. And so I just don't see, to me, I feel like this is such a backwards thing to do. And what I'm hopeful, like they've done with the driver equipment companies, is they set them on a ceiling, with the CCs and some of the stuff, but they have innovated and innovated and innovated to make those faces hotter, to make those clubs better, and people are still hitting it longer. So I hope with brands like Volvik and the other ball manufacturers, you guys are just going to say, okay, well, you're going to set my ceiling, but I'm going to run right up against it when 2028 comes.
And the good thing is the PGA Tour and LIV have not made a decision on this. There's a chance they won't abide by it, which would throw the whole thing into to your point, a topsy-turvy thing. But it's funny you're talking about Bryson, because we were just talking about him at lunch and at Greensboro at the PGA meetings. It's like that was the big thing when he tore apart Winged Foot. Everyone was like, "Oh my God, he's unstoppable." And so where is he now? You still have to play the ball's still round. You still have to play the game.
And
you
it
have
doesn't
to put
always
it in the
go
hole
straight.
at least number of strokes. And it's just there's so many moving parts to it. But your point of we're talking about making decisions based on less than 1% of the population, and that's kind of crazy, right? And in the USGA, not to pick on them, but one of my biggest pet peeves in golf is at their tournaments, the women's and men's open, is the pace of play.
Yeah.
And when you can't, like one time, a friend of mine played in one of the opens, women's open at Pine Needles, and it happened every time they have it there. They have a par 3. The minute you get done off this par 4 and make the turn to the par 3, there's 6 groups on the tee, in the national championship. So how does that happen? That's the pace of play is a cardinal rule. And if you're the governing body, you have to make sure that in your championships, everyone's playing at a good pace, or the pace you expect the general public to play at. And, they'll give every excuse like, well, this is the US Open and a lot of money's on the line. And, but it's just, there's a lot of things to worry about in the game, but I don't think this is one. And for instance, they've set the rule on the driver, right? The ball can only come off the driver so fast. The ball can only go so fast. And every gain that's happened over the last 20 years has been because of physical ability or training or exceptional athletes. And it's like the NBA, are we going to raise the basket 2 feet?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I had a very similar analogy in a previous episode. I said, are we going to give LeBron James ankle weights? So is that, I mean, why are we handicapping this thing?
That's yet to be seen. That's a great question. And it would cost the manufacturers. So when they were talking about bifurcation, when they were going to have the elite players have one ball and the amateurs the rest, that was the concern. It would cost a lot of money. And a lot of the things that we're used to in the industry, like staff players at golf courses, your club pro being on the staff and all those, a lot of that might would have to go away because the money, isn't being, the expense is being generated. So if we go down the path of two separate sets of equipment after 2028, that would be rough. I still think people want to play, I'm speaking for myself, but I still think people want to play what the pros play, and they want to be able to judge their skill. The USGA is saying it's 6 yards or whatever for an amateur, and if you took up the game, you really wouldn't know, right? Because you don't have anything to compare it with. But I can tell you what, and I'm approaching the gray years here, and I've just moved up tees to make the game more enjoyable for me. But I can tell you, if I stayed back, as great as equipment is, as great as golf balls have become, or right now, or club heads, I haven't, other than maybe accuracy, I haven't seen any advantage to the modern equipment that they're talking about for the elite level. And now TaylorMade and Ping are concentrating on the 10K drivers, which are designed to find the fairway more often, which is within the rules a great idea because they can make a straighter driver. So there's just different things you can do. But if we go down the road of two sets of two types of golf balls, all the companies are going to have to do things a little different because, not to pick on Callaway or Bridgestone, or they have 3 models. Callaway has more than 3 models of tour balls, right, to customize to your flight or your spin characteristics, which is the proper thing to do. But you couldn't make 4 chrome softs that are under 2028 standards and then 4 that are,
amateur level.
It just seems like a mess. I think there's more to unfold with this. And, if the PGA and LIV don't agree with this, I think that could just really put a fly in the ointment with the USGA and R&A. I mean, maybe the US Open and the Open Championship would have a different ball, but is it worth it after going through all that?
And what are you going to see from a competition standpoint where all of a sudden the guys play, a couple majors and then they go to the US Open and then they got to play a different ball? And what are you going to see from a competition standpoint where they're playing a different ball than they play on every other stop on tour or event that they're in? I mean, it's going to impact how the tournament looks.
And what you said, Pete, you think about it from an equipment standpoint. Say if they have 2 different balls and I'm a professional and I'm playing, depending on what tournament I'm in, I've got the old ball or the new ball. Well, then my equipment, I'm going to have equipment that's set up for the old ball and equipment that's set up for the new ball.
And God forbid that happens and somebody accidentally puts the wrong ball in their bag for the tournament.
Yeah.
Spieth just got disqualified this past week for just a scoring error. So I can only imagine what a golf ball error would do. So let's hope that doesn't happen.
We had and my original thought was I was expecting to come down where the Masters, the US Open, and the British Open or the Open Championship were the only tournaments that were going to use like reduced distance balls. That's the way I thought it was going to roll out. And I thought everyone else, and to your point, Aaron, it was going to take a lot of practice. You'd have to switch over a couple weeks early, play practice rounds, and then it's like, is there an asterisk because you won with the old ball, a new ball, like a conforming rolled back ball? It's just a mess. And one of my associates who works for me now and with me got Greg Norman disqualified at the Greater Hartford Open back in the day because he put test balls that weren't approved yet in the locker, and Greg went out and played with them.
Oh boy!
So it's happened other ways before, but it's just it's really a can of worms. And like you said, Ben, we got this time. At least we have time.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they'll change their mind. Maybe if everyone goes out at the Open at Pinehurst this year and hacks it up and like 1 over wins, maybe they change their mind, but that's not going to happen. So,
yeah. Well, the age-old phrase, we will see. So, Pete, thank you so much for your insight on that. I knew, although it's not a fun topic, you are the one to ask. So we really appreciate your insight, and we appreciate, you telling your story on how you got into the game of golf all the way to Volvik and all the exciting things going on at Volvik. The brand, when Aaron and I were talking before we went live, when we think of Volvik, we think of fun. So that you guys are pushing the envelope on that to make it even more fun is great. But to have the great performance, side of things too, is also impressive and fun to hear about with Volvik.
Well, thanks much, guys, and I'll send you some fun via FedEx so you can have your own fun after this call, and you can experience what we have to offer. But to your viewers too, thank you, and just give us a try. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. And again, it's all about fun. Get out there and play lots of rounds, lose lots of golf balls, and create those memories. So that's what it's all about.
I agree. Now, Pete, before we let you go, you've told some great stories and some funny ones, but we end every interview with the show is called Teed Off. So we tell something funny about the sport of golf or a personal experience in golf or the golf business that you'd like to share, that maybe grinds your gears a bit or makes you laugh after the fact. Pete, do you have any story or anything about golf that you can share with us that tees you off?
Yeah, lots of funny things. I mean, lots of great things. I thought about this and being at Bridgestone for 8 years. We had the sponsorship of the WGC at Firestone for all those years, the Bridgestone Invitational.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to meet a lot of people. And David Faraday was one of our brand spokesmen for a couple of years. And of course, was on the CBS broadcast team at Firestone for the WGC. So we got to know him really well. And he's a great guy. In fact, one day at breakfast, he took my cell phone and called my mom and told her that she couldn't believe it was him calling, but just things like that. So the best story I have from that end is they were doing a tour event, covering a tour event, and I think it might have been at Torrey Pines, but Gary McCord and David Faraday were together, and of course they were quite a pair, and they had happened to be on a hole where they just crossed paths because they're both walking reporters, right, reporting on the scene. So they were at a hole where they crossed paths. David had to use the porta-john, and Gary saw him going in the porta-john. So back then, porta-johns, now they had that little dial that shows occupied and not. Back then, they had like a little thing where you could put a padlock through, right? Like you could lock them, right? So Gary sees David going in and puts a stick in where you would put the padlock. So McCord's done. I mean, Faraday's done, and he's like playing with it. He can't get out, right? So the director at the time goes live to David to cover the shots on 13 or whatever, and he's in the porta-john. It was Lance Barrow was the director in the porta-john, and David, without missing a beat, makes up the whole thing. Can't see what's being said, but he said, "Yeah, we've got Kevin Kisner. He's got a 5-iron." It just went on and did the whole thing. And apparently it matched up pretty closely to what he was doing. But and finally McCord came and let him out. But
that's great.
Oh, that's good.
Those are just like the kind of things out there. Another quick one. One of my good friends was a cameraman for CBS. He's with Live now. Was on a par 3 and trying to frame the picture in a par 3. It takes an art to find those golf balls in the air.
Yeah.
So the guy hits this shot, and my friend's got the camera on at the handheld, and he loses it. He can't find it, right? And they have the mics. Those mics are built in on those cameras now. You see them, they're like fuzzy things. And my buddy goes, he loses it and says, GD effing things. And the ball comes down right by the hole. And the announcer says, I don't know who it was. He says, I don't know why he was that upset at that shot. It turned out great. But it was my buddy, the cameraman, who was swearing because he lost the ball in the frame. So
that's
just
great.
Kind of neat things from the tour. And then there was another former number one, who we talked about earlier, who everyone's waiting to play good and come back, and who had the flu at Riviera.
Uh-huh.
I probably shouldn't tell this, but the same friend who's a cameraman, this person, the former number one, whenever he'd see him on the tee, he would go stand next to him, wait for my friend to have to frame the golfer he was teeing off, and break wind. And then walk away, and then smile at him from across the tee.
I've heard Tiger is a jokester.
Yeah,
he's a big jokester.
Yeah, I mean, Darren Clark's told some funny stories I've seen before, and a whole bunch of guys. So I've heard he and JT in recent years. So that's funny, but I'm not surprised.
So there's lots of the best thing, and you guys know this because you're involved in the sport. The best thing is the memories and all the people you get to meet, and but you have one thing in common with everyone is you're all golfers, and that's pretty special. And looking back, that's why I got involved. And had I looked now 30 years forward to now, back then, I wouldn't have changed a thing, because like everyone says, the game gives you more than anything else can. So it's a pretty special thing.
Oh, you couldn't have said better than that.
I do have a question for you, Pete.
Sure.
Since you said you were a former DJ, and obviously with speakers being a big thing on the golf course these days, I'm a huge fan of it. I listen to music all the time on the golf course. Who is your go-to band when you're on the golf course if you're listening to music?
Right now,
who is your go-to, your favorite?
it would all be 70s and 80s. So it would be a mixture of everyone. I'm like one of those guys that's stuck where I came from.
Okay.
So I'm not that I love new music, but it would be all like 70s rock.
Mm-hmm.
From early 70s to late 70s, it kind of became disco. So, but I'm a big proponent of music on the golf course.
I like it.
And I think that generation that's not is dying off. Not literally, but it's going away. It's just had a friend, we played the Cradle at Pinehurst, and he was an older guy, and that music annoyed him because there's music like in the rock speakers.
Yeah.
So nowadays, when you tell people you were a DJ, they picture you like a club loaded, and you got a backwards hat on and glitter, and everyone dancing. But it was a radio DJ. So
that's what I liked. I've always been a big fan of music.
I have a go-to. It'd be a mixture of all the great bands, but it certainly has helped the game a lot. And like I said, if we can attract all these, there's that pool of 15 million out there who we've got to get over to our side. And, and turn on your end, they come to Myrtle Beach and rent condos and villas and play package golf. I mean, everyone benefits by converting them to actual players. And I think we have to do that by making it more open and welcome and fitting the lifestyle of more people. Bob Sagani, Bob down at True Blue?
Yes. Yeah.
So Bob and I have a thing we've had for years on social media. It's like, I'm a guy that thinks jeans are okay on the golf course, and he's the guy that thinks that or at least he has in the past, that I should be tarred and feathered, sort of, because of that. They shouldn't be. So it's like things like that, though, like it's like the hoodies, the thin golf hoodies that people are wearing.
I'm wearing one right now. I got one on right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's like, that's wonderful. I mean, it's stylish. You're comfortable, right?
Oh, yeah, Pete, let me tell you, the first time I saw that on, I don't even know what tour event it was, but I think it might have been Justin Thomas that was wearing one, or somebody like him.
Or Ricky.
It was the first time I'd ever seen it on a tour event, and I was so excited. I was like, I think a hoodie is now acceptable on the golf course. So I went out and wore one the very next round I played.
Well, I was at the PGA meeting yesterday, and Monday's formal because you have business meetings, so there's ties and jackets. But yesterday in the general session, I probably saw 25 hoodies, just like that. And I thought to myself, that's great. Look how it's just changed so fast. So again, we got to get more people having fun and playing, and it's great for the economy, and it's great for the industry. But and we'll work it all out, and it'll be fine.
Well, thank you for sharing with us your teed offs. Those are one of a kind stories. And this is, I know we went a little bit over, Pete, but I really appreciate your time being on teed off with us today.
Yeah, thank you very much. Enjoyed it.
Aaron and Ben, I appreciate it. And like I said, we'll send you some Volvik fun so you can experience it yourself. And again, if there's anything I can do for you, feel free to reach out. But good luck with the show and all your business. And thanks for having me on.
Planning an unforgettable Myrtle Beach golf getaway has never been easier with mbgolf.com. At mbgolf.com, we give you the power of choice in pairing world-class golf with premium options from golf course villas to oceanfront condominiums, brought to you by Condo World, the leaders in Myrtle Beach luxury travel. Make your next stay and play journey to the golf capital of the world the experience of a lifetime. It's all just a call or a click away.
The Back Nine.
Okay, making the back nine. Man, that interview with Pete was great.
Fantastic. So much good information he provided. A lot of good history. I really enjoyed hearing his history, especially the Myrtle Beach area.
It could have been his own episode, that interview. And really, thanks, Pete, for coming on, and can't wait to talk to him again and see some of that Volvik swag he's sending our way.
Absolutely. I'm sure I'll be leaving plenty of Volvik golf balls around in Myrtle Beach.
I'm really interested in the magma ball.
Yeah.
And hopefully my buddies don't listen to this episode.
I'm not telling anyone.
No way. But let's talk about Myrtle Beach golf. Spring is booking up.
It is. Spring is busy. The weather, obviously, as we mentioned, is getting ready to turn for us. We're getting closer to spring, and phones have been busy. Internet bookings have been busy. We are seeing, just bookings coming in left and right. So a lot of prime times, certainly already booked for this spring, but we continue to fill in, other spots that haven't quite booked up at this point. So there's still some room out there. So if you're looking for something, don't hesitate. You can hit March. Still has some good times. Even mid late May is still a good time to come.
I was going to say the primo times. Mid to late May has still got some openings. So if you've got a package that you're thinking about pulling the trigger on, in a primo time, then mid to late May, do it.
And discussing spring, I will mention, if you're looking for fall, go ahead and get started, because we have seen a turn as far as our calls and inquiries coming in are shifting to fall dates. So those are going to be booking up soon also.
I think the booking early trend is just really explode. I mean, we were talking earlier this morning about a group that wants a 2025 pricing because they missed out on the year before.
Yeah.
So there's no such thing as too early to start thinking about your next golf trip to Myrtle Beach and going to mbgolf.com, calling Aaron, calling his team, and at least get the planning started for your next trip.
Yeah, absolutely. It's never too early. As long as we have, a tee sheet availability, we can give you the information. We will gladly do it.
Well, with what's left available, what's the package of the episode that golfers should be interested in when they're thinking about their next trip to Myrtle Beach?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that a lot of golfers like to come down here and do, and we get asked a lot, are replays. And not all courses will allow us to book replays. You usually, if you book your morning round and you want to pre-book your afternoon round, you're paying full price for it. Myrtle Beach Golf Trail actually offers a replay package where you get discounted replays. You can pre-book them with your morning times whenever you set the package up. They've got roughly about 20 courses, I think, that participate on their replay package. So all you have to do is just play a minimum of 3 rounds, and you can pre-book the replays on those 3 courses that you want to play. But it's a great deal if you're looking to come down here and get in a lot of golf while you're here. And you don't have to book the replays if you only want to do it on like 2 of the 3 days. It's just a 3-round minimum on, the participating Myrtle Beach Golf Trail courses. But it has been a popular package for us especially for the golfers that are trying to get in as much as they can while they're here.
I think a 3-round minimum to pre-book the replays is pretty good because people doing replays, that's the diehard package that's wanting to play a lot. So I think 3 rounds is a breeze to hit the minimum.
Yeah, and chances are you're playing more than 3 rounds while you're here anyway. So if you want to get in some replays, pick a couple courses off of the Myrtle Beach Golf Trail list and get some replays on there. So.
Well, with almost 30 courses to choose from, the Myrtle Beach Golf Trail has a ton of great courses in the Myrtle Beach area to choose and play. So go to mbgolf.com or call us and ask about the Myrtle Beach Golf Trail. And if you get 3 rounds, you can pre-book your replays for a discounted rate.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk the accommodation of the episode. The Blue Water Keys in North Myrtle Beach, Aaron, is right up the road from our office here. It is a fabulous oceanfront property. It's got 2, 3, and 4 bedroom condos, oceanfront and ocean view. It's got all the amenities of a resort, lazy river, indoor-outdoor pool. The floor plan's very spacious, fully equipped kitchens, washer and dryer in the condos, dishwashers, a lot of great bedding options, private large glass enclosed balconies with the glass railings. The Blue Water Keys is a very popular property for golfers.
Yeah, and is one thing that I feel like I say a lot with our properties: location, location, location. And it's in a great spot in North Myrtle. Easy to get in and out, whether you're playing South End, Central, North End. You're not going to have, terribly far drive to any of the courses you're playing. So location's always key with golf groups.
Yeah, it's located in Crescent Beach, right on the ocean front, right off of Ocean Boulevard, which is so close to Highway 17, which is the main road to get to almost every golf course on the Grand Strand. So the Blue Water Keys, like you said, one of the best locations that you can consider when you are planning your next golf trip to Myrtle Beach. Okay, Aaron, last but not least, teed off. Pete gave some great ones, great stories. So those will be tough to top. But mine is actually related to what Pete was saying and you were saying about the fashion of the golf industry. I'm a little old fashioned. Now I do like the hoodies. You're wearing one. And Pete said that, in the corporate meetings, there's people in suits and there's people in the hoodies. I saw Rocco Medier the other week playing, and he had on the Champions Tour, he had on one of the hoodies. I cannot buy the joggers, though.
No, I'm not a fan.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
I think, and it teased me off. I mean, it looks like you're about to go to the gym or something.
Yeah.
And, Pete did say something about jeans. I don't think I go that far either. But I might like jeans more than joggers.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like you're out there in pajamas.
I agree. I'm not a fan of the joggers. I'll probably never have any interest in them. Like I said, I'm all hoodie, but the joggers, completely agree with.
I had one pair and now they are my sweatpants to go to the gym. I just cannot. Once I looked at myself with them in golf shoes and golf attire and tucked my shirt in, I'm like, I look like a joke. So that does tee me off. I know that's a little old fashioned, but stop with the joggers. Okay.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Yeah. I'm not a fan.
What's your teed off?
Mine's pretty simple. If I repeat myself on some of these teed off, I apologize, because there are some things that just really seem to agitate you on the golf course. I played in a golf outing the other week, and it really didn't. It bothered me because, when you're playing in an outing, especially when you're doing captain's choice, a lot of times you're not going to be playing. You're not playing your shot anyway. But I'd hit a shot, was in a sand trap, and walked up, and sure enough, there it lays in somebody's shoe print.
Yeah,
I get it. I know, we had the course, everybody out there was, and probably nobody was playing a shot out of the bunker. But even so, take the moment to just rake the bunker, because there's nothing worse when you're playing and you have to play your ball, and you get up there and you find that ball in the bunker. You don't want to be hitting it out of Bigfoot's fat foot, as they would say at Happy Gilmore.
Simple etiquette.
Yeah. So it takes a second, the chances are the rake is not far.
Yeah. Especially when it's in the middle of the bunker. Sometimes that random footstep stepping in and stepping out along the edge will get missed when raked, but the balls collect in the middle for the most part.
Yeah.
And when you have one right in the middle of the bunker, that's just total neglect.
It is. Just take a second, because somebody's going to end up in it. I guarantee it.
And I did a teed off about bunker rakes when we had Jimmy, but that at least I was trying to rake, so give it a shot.
Take your foot if you can't get the rake.
I use the club sometimes.
Yeah, take your club, use your foot, and sweep your foot over it. Just give the next person a chance, so they don't have to move their ball or do whatever. I mean, personally, I'm probably not going to play out of it, but it's just irritating that you have to move your ball because somebody was being lazy.
A little different to move the ball in the sand too, moving it in the fairway or something, if it's, or in a sprinkler head's one thing, but moving in the sand, you could have a worse shot.
Yeah. And if you're playing for any money or anything with your friends, you're going to have to get the okay to do it.
Yeah.
And knowing my friends, I'm going to have to play out of it.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good teed off, and this was a great episode. Big thanks to Pete Kinney, President of Volvik USA, for joining us. Aaron, thank you again for joining us for yet another episode of the Teed Off Podcast. Can't wait for the next one. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching, and we'll see you next time.
Yep.
Thanks for listening to Teed Off. Visit mbgolf.com and follow us on Instagram at Teed Off Podcast for the latest episodes and news.